Okay, let's dive in. India's really set out, well, a huge ambition on the world trade scene, hasn't it? They've launched this new blueprint.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold move. We're talking about a target of $2 trillion in total exports.
2 trillion by 2030.
Exactly, by 2030. And what's interesting is they're splitting it. They're aiming for $1 trillion in goods, actual physical products, and another $1 trillion in services.
So IT, consulting, that sort of thing.
Precisely. The intangible exports.
Right, and that's the goal we're exploring today, what this plan actually is, why it's, well, so crucial for India, and maybe how achievable it really is.
It's a steep climb, no doubt.
And we can use the policy's own structure to guide us, right? It's built on, what, 5 key pillars?
That's right. Announced April 1st, 2023. These 5 pillars are sort of the foundation. The first one they talk about is duration.
Okay, duration. What's the deal with that?
Well, see, most trade policies before had like a 5-year shelf life. Then they'd expire. This one, no end date. It's open-ended.
Interesting. Well,
The thinking is global trade changes so fast now. Locking into a rigid 5-year plan, it just doesn't cut it anymore. They want flexibility to adapt as things evolve.
so less like a contract, more like a rolling subscription?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh,
Allows for constant updates, which leads right into the second pillar, dynamism.
because it needs to keep up.
Exactly. No fixed end date means it has to be responsive. The idea is to, tweak rules, change strategies quickly if there's a global shock or a market shift, not be stuck with old rules.
Okay, adaptability. Makes
Okay.
sense. Pillar number 3 is decentralization.
Now, this is, I think, a really big change. Export promotion used to be very top-down, very centralized.
Right.
This policy pushes it way down.
Yeah.
States, districts, even the overseas missions, they're all being empowered to actively promote exports.
So using local knowledge.
Precisely. The idea is that people on the ground know their strengths best.
Yeah.
It's like telling every region, okay, you're now an export ambassador, go sell what you do best.
Getting everyone involved. Okay, 4th pillar, direction.
This is about focus, not trying to boost everything under the sun equally.
More targeted.
Yeah, putting energy into specific high-growth areas. Think e-commerce, technology, advanced manufacturing. The bet is that these sectors will pull the whole train towards that big number.
And the last one, number 5, sounds very current, disaster proofing.
Oh, absolutely. A direct lesson from the pandemic, Supply chains were so fragile.
We all saw that.
So this pillar is about building resilience, making those supply networks tougher, less vulnerable to shocks, whether it's pandemics, geopolitics, whatever, creating supply chains that can, well, take a hit.
So these 5 things, duration, dynamism, decentralization, direction, disaster proofing, that's the framework for hitting. Remind us again.
$2 trillion in total exports by 2030.
Right, and that's split.
$1 trillion in merchandise, cars, textiles, pharma, electronics, and $1 trillion in services, IT, consulting, finance, all that.
Okay, perspective time. Where's India starting from to make that leap?
Well, for 2022-23, total exports were around $770 billion, both goods and services combined.
$770 billion to $2 trillion in about 7 years.
Yeah. So you see the scale of it. It's like if you currently jog to the end of the street, you're suddenly aiming to run a marathon.
Wow. Okay, that puts it in perspective. So why? Why are exports and hitting this kind of number seen as just so incredibly vital, the lifeblood of the economy?
Well, fundamentally, exports are how you earn foreign currency. You need that hard cash, dollars, euros, to pay for essential imports, right? Oil, machinery, technology.
Foreign exchange, crucial for stability.
Absolutely. And beyond that, exports mean jobs, lots of jobs, across manufacturing, services, logistics, and, on the world stage, being a major exporter boosts your profile, your influence.
And this wasn't always India's approach, was it? There's a history here.
Oh, completely different. Before the early 90s, India was very much a closed shop. Import tariffs were sky high, sometimes over 200%. Plus, strict licensing. It was tough to get anything in or out.
Protectionist, aiming for self-sufficiency.
Pretty much. Then came 1991, the big liberalization.
The turning point.
Exactly. It was like tearing down the walls. Tariffs dropped, markets opened up, foreign investment started coming in. And that directly fueled massive growth. India's GDP was, $266 billion in 91? By 2018, it hit $2.3 trillion. Opening up was key.
And now India is a huge player in global trade.
Enormous. Shipping like 7,500 different types of goods to nearly 190 countries, importing 6,000 items from 140 countries. It's a massive network.
But you mentioned the current environment. It's not exactly smooth sailing, is it?
Far from it. The global trade landscape now feels, well, complicated. like navigating a really congested highway, maybe a traffic jam. Protectionism is rising. Economies are slowing down in key markets. Lots of bumps in the road.
Okay, so to navigate that jam and reach $2 trillion, India needs some powerful engines. Which sectors are expected to do the heavy lifting here?
Several key ones. Pharmaceuticals is definitely a big one. India is often called the world's pharmacy,
Yep.
and it's not just hype.
Because they produce so much.
Exactly. They make about 20% of the world's generic medicines by volume. And get this, over 60% of global vaccines by volume. Pharma exports were $25.3 billion in 2020-23.
Okay.
But the industry itself is valued around $50 billion internally. And the target for exports by 2030 is a huge $130 billion. Cities like Hyderabad, Mumbai, Ahmedabad are the hubs.
But there are challenges.
Oh yeah, intense global scrutiny on quality control. Maintaining that quality at scale is tough, and competition is fierce.
Got it. Another shiny spot is diamonds, right? India dominates there.
Completely. Cutting and polishing. India handles 70–75% of the world's polished diamonds. Surat, in Gujarat, that's the diamond city, employs maybe 850,000 people.
Wow.
The numbers are huge. In 2023, they imported nearly 150 million carats of rough diamonds and exported almost 60 million carats polished. It's massive.
But vulnerable to economic swings.
Very. Luxury goods always are. Global demand fluctuates.
Okay, moving to manufacturing. Automobiles.
Yep. Auto exports have been growing steadily. Hit $4.5 billion back in 2009, still climbing. India's pretty good at making fuel-efficient cars, exporting to places like the UK, Italy, South Africa.
The challenge there must be EVs.
Exactly. The whole world is shifting to electric vehicles. India needs to adapt its manufacturing, like yesterday. That needs big investment, big strategic shifts.
Right. And then services. IT is the giant, but you said other areas are growing.
Absolutely. IT services are still the bedrock, world-renowned. But what's really interesting is the growth in other business services.
Like what?
Higher value stuff. Legal services, accounting, management consulting, technical consulting. These made up 24% of service exports in 2022-23. That's up from 19% back in 2014.
So moving up the value chain.
Pretty much. Bengaluru, Hyderabad are still key hubs, but it shows diversification within services.
And the policy puts a special focus on e-commerce exports now.
Yeah, that's definitely a new, deliberate push, seen as a huge growth area, especially for smaller players.
How are they supporting it?
Plans for dedicated e-commerce export hubs, streamlining cross-border logistics, even using the postal service, these Dak Niryak Kendras, to make it easier for small businesses to ship things globally.
Like giving a small artisan a direct line to a customer in Canada.
That's the vision.
Huh?
Give them a global megaphone.
Yeah.
It's full of opportunity, but, it's also complex. Logistics, regulations, still need smoothing out.
Okay, so we have the pillars, the key sectors. What about the specific tools, the policy playbook to actually make this happen?
Right, the nuts and bolts. A big theme is improving the ease of doing business.
Cutting red tape, basically.
Exactly.
Yep.
Things like self-certification for some trade agreement rules, simpler customs processes, longer timelines for re-exports or re-imports, just trying to make the day-to-day less of a hassle for exporters.
And a shift in financial support. Remission over incentives.
Yeah, this is a bit technical but important. Instead of direct cash handouts for exports, which can cause trouble with global trade rules, the focus is on refunding duties and taxes paid on the inputs.
So the materials used to make the exported goods.
Right. It's more compliant with WTO rules. Makes the support system more sustainable internationally.
And that e-commerce push we mentioned gets specific actions.
Yes. Upgrading IT systems for cross-border trade, running training programs for small businesses to help them sell online globally, trying to equip them.
Visualize that small seller reaching across the world. Then there's an amnesty scheme. Sounds intriguing.
It's kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card, almost. A one-time chance for exporters who maybe messed up on some past obligations to sort things out without huge penalties, clears the decks, lets them move forward under the new rules.
Okay. And streamlining for sensitive goods. SCOMIT.
Right. SCOMIT covers things like special chemicals, tech, stuff with potential dual use. The policy aims to simplify the export licensing for these items, make it more efficient while still keeping necessary controls.
And finally, promoting rupee trade.
Yeah, this is a bigger strategic goal. Trying to encourage international deals to be settled in Indian rupees, not just US dollars. Long term, it's about increasing the rupee's global role.
So lots of specific measures there. But the big question always is implementation, right? Does it actually work on the ground?
That's the million-dollar or maybe trillion-dollar question. There can be a huge gap between a policy document and reality. Does self-certification really speed things up at customs? Do those training programs actually help the small seller? Execution is everything.
And that execution has to happen against that complex global backdrop. What are the big external opportunities and obstacles?
Okay, opportunities first. A big one is the China plus one strategy.
Companies looking beyond China for manufacturing.
Exactly. Geopolitics, trade tensions, pandemic lessons. Many firms, especially U.S. ones, want alternatives. India, with its market size and workforce, looks attractive.
So India's getting invited to the diversification party.
Sort of like being invited to the cool kids table, yeah.
Yeah.
As supply chains get redrawn.
Plus, India is signing more free trade agreements, FTAs.
Definitely a big push there. Recent deals with the UAE, Australia, those Scandinavian countries, they open specific doors, give preferential access for key sectors like textiles, pharma.
Like VIP passes to certain markets.
Kind of. Though sometimes the scope is limited to specific goods. Still helpful.
And India's non-alignment might actually be an advantage now.
It seems to be. As the world gets more polarized into blocks, India can often talk to everyone. US, Europe, Russia, Middle East. Makes it a potentially stable partner for many. Almost like the Switzerland of Asia, in a way.
Okay, those are opportunities. What about the global headwinds, the obstacles?
The biggest one is definitely rising protectionism. America first type policies. New tariffs popping up everywhere that directly hurts exports.
And we've seen that bite India before.
Oh yeah. Remember 2017 U.S. steel tariffs hit India's steel exports hard, down 46% to the U.S. And then losing the GSP duty-free benefits in the U.S. in 2019. That affected billions in exports. Tariffs make Indian goods pricier.
A constant threat.
Although sometimes it's a double-edged sword. If others face higher tariffs, maybe India can step in. But mostly, it's a negative.
Then there are bureaucratic challenges. Even if they're domestic, they impact foreign partners.
Absolutely critical point. Despite efforts, navigating India's regulations can still feel like, well, wading through treacle sometimes. Complex rules, inconsistencies.
Any specific examples?
The classic one is needing government approval for layoffs in factories over a certain size. That kind of rigidity worries global manufacturers. This policy promises simplification, but the proof is in the pudding. Will it really change that perception?
And just the general global slowdown.
Yeah, that makes everything harder. If major economies aren't buying as much, growing exports rapidly is tough. Like trying to sell, sunscreen in winter. The market conditions are just challenging.
So a mixed bag externally. What about internally? What hurdles on the home front need tackling for this $2 trillion dream?
Definitely some homework to do domestically. One big issue is sluggish private investment.
Why hasn't that taken off more?
Part of it is needing that predictable, simple business environment. Clear rules are one thing. But also, reducing uncertainty around taxes is huge. These like unexpected tax demands, maybe applied backwards in time. That tax terrorism label, it makes investors nervous.
Hesitant to commit big money.
Exactly, especially for large export-focused manufacturing.
Labor laws also come up constantly.
Yes, often seen as rigid. That rule about needing government permission for layoffs is a prime example. Making laws more flexible could really boost manufacturing, attract those foreign firms, setting up export hubs.
And infrastructure. There's investment, but is it fast enough?
Huge amounts are being spent on roads, ports, digital systems, all vital. But building this stuff takes time. Progress can feel slow compared to the need. The policy's push on digitalization, like e-customs, helps make existing infrastructure more efficient, but again, implementation needs to be quick and smooth.
But India does have strengths to build on if these issues are fixed.
Oh, absolutely. The massive domestic market, that huge, young, increasingly skilled workforce. These are incredible assets. If the domestic environment gets smoother, India could really unleash that potential. The underdog could definitely succeed.
And the most direct benefit for people, if this works, is jobs, right?
That's really the core promise, isn't it? Hitting $2 trillion isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's meant to translate into millions of livelihoods.
We see that connection already.
For sure. That Surat diamond industry, 850,000 jobs. Textiles, a massive 45 million people employed, even if growth has been a bit flat lately compared to rivals. IT and services, millions more skilled jobs. Exports are already a huge employer.
So the hope is reaching $2 trillion means millions more jobs.
That's the vision. New factories, maybe for EVs. Small businesses reaching global customers online. Opportunities for that huge young workforce entering the job market every year.
It sounds like a potential feel-good story, but also a big if.
Precisely. Huge potential upside for people, for prosperity. But if execution falters, if the challenges are too big, those job numbers might not materialize as hoped. High stakes.
So summing it all up, this policy is a massive swing for the fences, isn't it? A bold play to become a true global trade heavyweight.
Absolutely. And there are good ideas in there. Focusing on e-commerce, tech, trying to streamline things, playing to existing strengths.
But, and it feels like a recurring but, the hurdles are enormous, both out there in the world and right here at home.
No doubt. Global protectionism isn't going away. And domestically, cutting through that bureaucratic inertia, making things genuinely easy for business, that's the hard part. Execution needs to be near perfect.
So success really boils down to making it happen on the ground.
That's it. Can they simplify the rules effectively? Can they attract the investment needed? Can they navigate the tricky global scene? That's what will determine if this $2 trillion goal is reached.
It really does feel like a high-stakes bet.
It does. You know, going from $770 billion to $2 trillion in 7 years, it's like betting on a massive firecracker.
Could be spectacular.
Could be spectacular. A huge burst of growth. Or,
Sure.
if things go wrong, it could just fizzle. It really captures that blend of huge ambition and significant risk.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. Given this national plan, all its moving parts and the choppy waters globally and domestically, how might you, if you're running a business or thinking about exporting, need to adapt your strategy? Do you follow the government's path closely, or do you focus more on finding your own way around the inevitable roadblocks? Something to really mull over as you navigate your own international trade journey.